If you're a fan of Boss pedals and you're after an amp in a box style overdrive pedal, you're in the right place. I'm going to put these pedals through their paces, let you hear how they sound, hit them with some fuzz and see if they're up to the job. I've set all these to a low gain setting and I've tried to set the EQ so that they're all relatively balanced with each other. The ST-2 was probably the easiest to set up just because it balanced really nicely with my clean sound. And it does that Marshall Plexi type sound pretty well, I think. The combo drive, I set the gain a little bit higher just to get it on the edge of breakup. It can go completely clean if you wanted to use it as a clean boost, that one. The Bassman has quite a big low end and this sort of squishy top end, which I think it's the sound they're using to try and emulate maybe the sound of those 4x10s in the Bassman combo. The Deluxe Reverb I thought was the more difficult one to set up because there's a bit of a weird mid frequency in there that I couldn't really EQ out with the tone controls. Just takes a bit of getting used to, I think. But the breakup is really nice. See what you think. With the gain set all around midway, the ST-2 is doing a pretty good job of that JCM 800 sound. The combo drive, you only have to set the gain a little bit higher on that, and you're much more towards something like Brian May with a treble booster into a Vox AC30. The Bassman has this big low end on the thicker strings for me, but the top end is a little bit trashy and fuzzy. Maybe that's just part of the tweed sound, I don't know. And the Deluxe Reverb has a bright, thick crunch. I like the sound of the breakup, but it does have an increasingly weird mid frequency as I raise that gain control. See if you can hear what I mean. Stack and the combo drives are set with the sound control all the way up, it does get pretty mental. It's real metalhead territory, and the main difference between those two on that setting for me is in the high end. On the combo drive, the high end is more open and the higher frequency is higher up. I think they're just trying to emulate the sound of a smaller open backed cabinet on that one. The Bassman is really sounding trashy to me now on those high gain settings. Maybe I'm just not a fan of the tweed Bassman sound, I don't know. It does sound good for some stuff. 60s rock chord stabs and stuff like that, I thought it sounded really good on. The Deluxe Reverb is sounding really snappy. It's like a bright, loud crunch with plenty of attack. box type overdrive pedal to colour the sound of other fuzz and distortion pedals. So here I'm using a fuzz face, which I think into a clean amp can sound a little bit fizzy and quite sort of loose and woolly in the low end. It's not a bad sound, it's just the way it sounds. And plugging that into an overdriven amp or an overdriven amp in a box type pedal can just round off those top end frequencies and tighten up the low end. So that's what I'm trying to use them for here. The power stack seems to do it all right, but listen, as I move to the pedals on the right, like the Fender pedals, it gradually gets weirder and weirder, and I'm hearing more and more of these like strange notched EQs that make the fuzz face really start to sound quite strange. See if you can hear what I'm talking about. I've just plugged in the OD3 to compare it to these other pedals for being used as an amp in a box type thing, so to colour the sound of the fuzz face. And it seems closest to the power stack, but with a slightly less compressed, more dynamic sound to me. Now I don't know whether it's a digital thing or what, but the analog OD3 seems to be doing a fine job at lightly colouring the fuzz face in the way I'd expect an overdriven amp to do. The power stack sounds alright to me, but some of the others sound really strange. It's just something to be aware of when you want to use an amp in a box type pedal in this way. The OD3 definitely isn't as versatile as some of these other digital pedals, but to be honest, if I'm looking for a more generic amp type overdrive from Boss, I'm probably still going to go to the OD3 most of the time. These other pedals I think are better if you're looking for something more specific, and particularly with the Fender range, you have to like the sound of those notches in the EQ and be aware of how it will make other pedals sound if you're going to stack them. Let me know which of these pedals is your favourite down in the comments, and if you found this video useful, like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.